Welcome to my YouTube channel, which I am now dubbing Keep Your Eye on the Ball, episode 5. We'll call it 5. I lost count. It's more than one, so that's the important part. This week, we'll be covering the Cortland Sutton touchdown from the past week's win against the Green Bay Packers, and also breaking down my 3 keys to victory versus the Kansas City Chiefs and upcoming on Sunday. I am going to be playing around with formats a little bit and making it maybe a little bit more interesting so you don't have to stare at my face the entire time. And so with that being said, let's jump in. This week's play that I chose to diagram was the Cortland Sutton touchdown from this past week's win versus the Green Bay Packers. As always, I'll be going over the down and distance, which was 3rd and 4, the time this happened, the third quarter, the score, Denver leading 9-3, and where this happened. This was inside the Denver red zone on the Denver 18. The formation that Denver comes out in is a 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 running back set. The play initially starts out with both the 2 receivers on each side of the field, but then they bring Cortland Sutton from the left side of the field onto the right side. This was probably done for 2 reasons. First of these being as a indicator for Russ to read if this is going to be the Green Bay defense showing man coverage or showing zone coverage, because the Green Bay cornerback follows Sutton from one side of the formation to the other and leaves one corner isolated on Jerry Jeudy. This is probably a man coverage, and they did show this for the rest of the play. Now, they move Sutton over to the left side and create multiple receiver sets on the left side. Now, this has several different names. It can be a trips, it can be a stack, it can be a bunch. Either way you call it, it's adding multiple receivers to the one side of the field. And this also tells Russ where he needs to go with the ball. The bunch is basically used to create confusion in the secondary, whether they play zone, because then they need to be in exactly the right place to defend the play, or they need to be in man, where each player knows exactly the player that they're taking as far as coverage. When there's stacks or trips on one side of the field, it's there purposefully to create confusion amongst the defense, and you can use it in short yardage, medium yardage, or long yardage situations. So with that being said, let's get into the actual diagnose the play and see what Denver came up with. Now, from the onset, we see that the Green Bay defensive backs don't jam, and they give each receiver a free release. Now, considering the coverage that they came in with, I don't think that this was intentional, and I think this might have been a blown coverage on their end. So the concept is to get Sutton on the perimeter in man coverage. So from that, we see that Talkman, who's number 82, runs a go route. He's just basically being asked to carry his receiver upfield. Mims starts off on the outside and breaks inside on a post. Because they're playing man, he's going to be taking that outside cover, or that outside defensive back, and asking him to follow him. This will also hold the safety whether they're playing in a cover 1, which they bailed into, which means that this one safety is basically patrolling the back of the end zone, and one safety covers down in either a defensive position called a robber. When Mims does this, he's basically carrying 2 guys with him. He is able to do this because he's the speed threat on the field. This is where even being a decoy with the speed is important. This basically leaves the inside defensive back for Green Bay matched up on Sutton. Sutton then breaks to the outside, and instead of taking the flat, he then turns it back upfield. Now, what leaves him so wide open is, 1, the Green Bay defensive back is caught up in all the traffic that's going on from the bunch, like we talked about earlier. And Russell Wilson does a great job with his eyes in holding the safety in the middle of the field, so that way he can't get a break on the ball in either direction. The broadcast did a good job of explaining this, that this wouldn't be offensive pass interference because none of the receivers were downfield blocking before the ball was thrown, and any contact that was done was incidental. It is a legal gray area as far as rules go, but the concept is to create traffic and confusion amongst the defensive backs, and Denver did a great job of doing this. So when you see everybody break, you see obviously Sutton is wide open on the wide side of the field. Russ hits him with an easy throw, touchdown. Now, I also believe that Green Bay was not expecting Denver to go for the touchdown in this instance because of the defensive assignment that they came into. Because everybody was in man, which basically meant that they were trying to stop the third down conversion. And if you see from the film, the deep safety covers in the robber position, like I said, like I indicated, and they're both doubling Jerry Jeudy over the middle, one with the safety and one with the defensive back. Also, the one linebacker that they had in the play goes to cover P. Ryan in the flat. So this basically tells me that they weren't anticipating that Denver's going to take their shot here. For as much criticism as Sean Payton has gotten with some of the conservative calls he's made this past season, he did a really good job in taking a calculated gamble and going for the end zone here. So now we look ahead to the Kansas City Kansas City Chiefs, and going over what I think will be keys to the game. Now, my first key is to get Cortland Sutton involved. I think Denver actually did a really good job of forcing the issue and getting him into the game plan early and getting him the ball, especially on third downs. He's a big receiver, he's a physical receiver, and there just hasn't been enough of a concerted effort to get him the ball. I thought you saw on Sunday that when they put him not necessarily one-on-one matchups, but running routes that create separation for him, I thought he did really well. And they're going to need to have a better passing attack than they did this, in the first matchup in Kansas City. So this is where I feel like Sutton could really come into play. My second key is not too reckless, but not too cautious. Denver needs to take chances if they present themselves, but don't chase the game. And this applies to the offense and the defense. Now, what do I mean by this? Teams are scared of the boogeyman named Patrick Mahomes, and they go out either outside of their game plan to try to outmaneuver him, or they play way too conservative so as not to lose to him. On offense, you need to be aggressive on third and shorts. You need to be aggressive in obvious rundowns. You need to be more aggressive passing the ball, taking those deep shots with Mims, maybe play actions on second and short. So that way you're forcing the issue and you're making the Kansas City defense react to you versus being conservative. And I know that I've said before that there needs to be a more methodical approach to the offense. With Kansas City, it's got to go out the window. You got to be aggressive. Now, on defense, it's the same thing. Don't go for kill shots and trying to bring Mahomes down, but also play your assignments. Mahomes is the king at extending plays, and this is where he hurts you. If you're playing zone, stay in your zones. If you're playing man, trail your man and play the assignment. Let Mahomes get his scrambles here and there, but make them earn every yard. If they do those two things and they're disciplined and also taking calculated risks, I think this will be a key to maybe breaking the snide and getting a win. And lastly, Denver needs to score touchdowns, not settle for field goals. Denver kicked 4 field goals in this last win versus Green Bay. That's fine. It's points on the board. But you need to turn at least 2 of those into touchdowns. With the Kansas City offense, you just never know when they're going to erupt. And if it turns into a track meet, Denver needs to be up to that task. And unfortunately, if you're kicking field goals inside of your own 20, which they did, it's just not going to be enough points to beat Mahomes. And you got to be able to do that, especially in front of the home crowd on Sunday. Now, if the weather's bad and it is forecasted for snow, it's also important that this may hinder the kicking game. So it's going to be an emphasis on putting the ball in the back of the end zone, whether this means pounding them out and getting six the hard way, or it means taking those calculated risks and putting the ball in the air and hopefully getting inside the end zone. But if you're just playing safe and you're playing for field goals and just points, it's a recipe to get beaten. Denver has seen this happen way too many times. They need to go for the jugular. They need to score points. So that wraps it up for this week. For all three of my fans, thank you for getting your eyeballs on the channel, subscribing, liking, leaving comments. If you're new and you just stumbled across this, give me a thumbs up. If you thought I did great, give me a thumbs down if you didn't. And either way, leave me a comment and maybe I'll get better. And that's what we're all striving to do here, just get a little bit better each week. I'll be coming out with my weekly column probably tomorrow for posting right before game day on Sundays. And I'll see you next time. And as always, keep your eye on the ball.